All right, welcome to our Dear Younger Me session with Megan Owen. And this session with Megan is going to focus on the little girl inside of us. But first, I just want to do a little intro and let Megan tell us a bit about herself. So let's start with just who you are now and what you're offering to women in this world that we serve and we love.
Okay, well, I am now a pastoral trauma counselor. I run my own practice that is geared toward those who have been spiritually abused, religious abuse, but also any type of abuse. So all of my clients are survivors and they are my heroes. Um, I have a master's in pastoral counseling. I'm certified in crisis counseling with the AACC. I am certified in bereavement, EMDR, and developmental needs meeting strategy, which is an ego state therapy designed to connect to our inner parts. So this is right up my alley. Yes, so this is where I've landed after years and years of work, but it was not so great before. I came out of a very abusive marriage with my 4 little children. My upbringing was not ideal for somebody like me. And when I say somebody like me, I mean somebody who is autistic. And nobody knew that. And
Mm-hmm.
girls weren't getting tested back then. So yes, so I'm 51 now almost. And I have not had an easy life. I've had a lot of trauma. Um, and I've chosen to transform that pain, and now I help women whenever I can.
Yeah. You and I met 4 years ago through a program that you had developed. And since that time, I've learned so much from you. And you've also become just a dear, trusted friend and sister. And we're in that 50s club together. And so a lot of the resources that we now have access to, we didn't have when we were little girls. I was born in 74. Were you 73? Okay.
Mhm.
So, when we were teenagers in the 80s, the resources were not good. When we were new wives and the resources were not good. So, we're just coming to offer women basically what we wish we had had.
Mhm.
So, let's
Exactly.
talk a little bit about little Megan. So, whatever you feel comfortable, this is just an intro, just to kind of give people an idea of who you are and what being little Megan was like. And then during our full session together, you're going to help us go back and love on little Megan. But tell us a little bit about her.
Well, I did bring a photo for
Oh,
context. This is little Megan in the 70s.
hi, little Megan, little red Megan. Oh,
Yeah, a little
beautiful.
strawberry blonde. And that was probably, oh, it says right here, fall of 1978. So I was about 5 years old. And that's really the little one that I have focused on in the last several years. And the one I use as an example when I do retreats or conferences or even just working with clients, because she was starting at that age to believe that there was something inherently wrong with her. Um, 0 to 5, we sort of still remember the face of God. We're just out there, we can run, we can strip our clothes off and run naked through the neighborhood at 3 years old, and people will say, "Oh, that is so precious." We don't have the inhibitions, we don't have the stigmas. We hopefully, and not always, but hopefully we understand that we're made in God's image. At least a part of us does.
Mhm.
But right around 5 is when our personalities are beginning to form and we start noticing things. And when I was 5, I don't think I had the mirror neurons from my parents that I needed to know that I was okay. Um, and there are a lot of reasons for that. My parents were divorced when I was 2. They remarried each other when I was 3.
Wow.
I know.
That's a story.
It is. That's a whole different.
That's a story. Yes.
But as a result, I have never been able to find a photo of myself with my mom as a little girl. Not just the two of us, not just the
Mm,
two of us. So I do believe that my mother was under a lot of stress. I think that she was very unhappy. I come from a long line of unhappy women. And the result of the unhappiness was being highly critical. And so not only did I have those, not only did I not have those mirror neurons where I could look at my mom and think, I'm okay, I belong to her, I'm good. She was highly critical because I couldn't read the social cues very well.
Yeah.
Uh, I would try to mimic my sisters, which is very typical of an autistic child, but I didn't know that. Nobody knew that back then. You know, like you said, in the 70s, mental health is stigmatized. We didn't go to counseling or anything like that. And so the result was sort of this idea that I was wrong,
Mm.
that I was wrong in my soul. And so I'd mimic my sisters, and sometimes that would work, and other times it would make things even more awkward, as you can imagine. Or I would mimic somebody, and what they were doing wasn't a good thing. And so the constant criticism began to contend with that little soul inside of me that said, wait a minute, I was made in God's image. I'm
Yeah.
not a bad kid. I'm just a kid.
Wow.
And we have that cognitive dissonance then
Yeah.
when our soul that God breathed into us, that is unchanging
Mm.
and eternal,
Mm.
comes into conflict with your mother's voice.
Mm. Wow.
And right around 5 or 6 is when we say, I can't fight this anymore because my mind will split.
Wow.
So we just adopt it.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah. And now we have a very critical part of ourselves,
Mm.
which, you know, we call our inner critic. So I had a very loud inner critic through childhood. And a lot of people listening will understand that having a loud inner critic as a child is very stunting. You don't develop psychologically the way that is ideal for
Mm.
children. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought I was broken,
Yeah.
and I thought it was bad.
Yes. Yes.
And because of my mother and my grandmother and an older sister, I thought that I was a failure. And
Mm.
in my little mind, I was a failure because I wasn't accomplishing the goal of making my family look good.
Mm.
And
Lots
we
and lots of masking going on.
Oh, oh, yes, yes. And the distance between my public persona as
Mhm.
a 5-year-old and my actual true self began to grow until there was a really great chasm, a
Yeah.
really great chasm. And then as I got older, well, we can talk about that another time because right now we're focused on tiny little Megan.
Mm-hmm.
I needed somebody to see her. And research shows that if there's one compassionate witness who is an adult, just one, that a child will be okay. One good enough adult. And I
Wow.
think, yeah, I think that was my dad. So my dad was absent a lot because he was a pilot,
Mm.
was in the military. And my mom had 5 kids. And so
Mm.
there's compassion there. However, that compassion doesn't cancel out what little Megan suffered.
That's right.
And by jumping to compassion without uh, a clear understanding of what we've been through as children, we're bypassing
Mm.
that pain. And then we have that little girl inside of us who's still wounded.
Mm.
So when she's triggered, she will drive the car.
Mm.
She will take center stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so this was often happening to me, even in my 20s. I was that little wounded girl
Yeah.
who didn't feel like she was enough or could be loved by her own mother.
Mm.
Still uh, come up at times and do childish things,
Mm.
childlike things like attention seeking in my 20s. I was a concert pianist and I would strive and strive and strive and strive because that little wounded 5-year-old needed somebody to tell her that she was worthy.
Mhm.
And so it took years for me to get in touch with her and help her to understand that she wasn't broken, that there wasn't anything wrong with her,
Mhm.
that the people around her just didn't know what to do, and they were so blinded from their own pain. My mother was in terrible pain all the way up until when she died emotionally. And you know, when you're in pain, Heather, you cannot see outside of that pain. It is just, you know, physical pain, emotional pain. It is so challenging to say, okay, I'm going to put my pain away now for the benefit of so and so. You know, she wasn't capable of doing that. So I did it for that little girl. I've reparented her, and that's what I'll be
Yes.
about in
Yes.
this session is. Mhm.
So yeah, so we invite you to join us for this event, and you'll get to hear more of Megan. What are just a couple of the topics you're going to be covering during your session with us?
So I'm going to be talking about grief first, grief for our inner children, grief for the places that are untouched by love. Then I move into toxic shame. I talk a little bit about complex trauma. And then we move into some practical
Good.
ideas. And yeah, it's going to be good. I'm
It's going
excited.
to be awesome, and I'm just grateful to you for being my friend, for loving me on the good days and the bad days, and for just partnering with me in our love of women survivors. So
Oh,
looking,
Heather, Heather, you know how much you mean to me and what a gift you've been to my soul and continue to be. And I'm so grateful for our sisterhood, truly. Thank you.
God put us together. He knew what he was doing. So we look
Yes.
forward to hearing more from you. Thank you so much.